All right, good morning, good morning. This is We Play Games. I'm Walker, and here we are in the Vicky 3 Academy discussing debt. So we are going to talk about debt from a broad conceptual standpoint and then from the implications standpoint. So, what is debt? Debt is your country's ability to borrow against its own economy. And it's just sort of like getting the people who are there and have wealth to give you a government bond in a sort of sense. It is limited by the cash reserves of the buildings in your country. And so if you have buildings with less than complete cash reserves, they'll still be giving some for you to borrow against, but be aware that this is it's not dividends, right? You don't have to have maxed out cash reserves in order to make best use of your credit. But it's dangerous to use things like things that are not at full cash reserves as your line of credit, because if they're not at full cash reserves, then they're not at like insanely high productivity most of the time, which means that there's a chance that the business will not do as well, which will draw your credit limit down, which might cause you to go into default. So instead, mostly you want to be using cash reserves on buildings that you're not currently subsidizing, and that's mostly going to be making up the pool of debt that you can pull against. So why would you be pulling against debt? Well, if you're utilizing debt properly, then you can use debt to build stuff faster and to expand more than it would hurt you to not do so, right? Like the investment pool is going to help you build as well, and that's absolutely a great tool, and you should absolutely use it. But you do need to be aware that your credit is a tool that is kind of independent of your investment pool. Investment pool is the extra money that it's coming from the dividends from your pops with ownership shares, whereas credit is just coming from this. But where is this interest payment going to? You see this here? So this is interest. This is what we are paying against that credit that we've borrowed. So interests are paid to, there's a way to do this. I'm still struggling with the user interface. Please forgive me. I hope you guys have suffered the same as me. Interest is paid on its loans. It's calculated by multiplying the principal, and then is paid out to the lending pops. So who are the lending pops? Well, as it turns out, the lending pops are also the same pops who are doing your investment pool. They're the owners. And so the ownership production method is going to determine where your money from your credit is going, and therefore what these people are actually bringing in their net income. You see this? They've got an interest payment, net income interest payment. So what are the implications of that? Well, the implications of that are pretty clear, that if you're utilizing debt and you're not doing anything else with it, then utilizing debt is giving money to the upper strata. Depending on if the upper strata are pops that you want to associate with or ones you do not want to associate with, then you need to be careful, right? Like if you're giving most of your money to upper strata pops, there will be some shopkeepers who are going to own businesses as well at the beginning of the game. But more of the upper strata is going to be in control and ownership control, with aristocrats running around. And that's really critical, because there are some really interesting exceptions here, important things to keep in mind. So what's a great example here? So these guys are working. They do have an ownership share here on a subsistence farm, but subsistence farms don't have cash reserves either. So that does mean that at the beginning of the game, if you are borrowing money, you don't need to worry about paying money to all the aristocrats living on subsistence farms. You just need to worry about paying interest money to the pops working on like actual real farms, right? Like livestock ranches and tea plantations, because they do have cash reserves. So debt, it's one of these things that if you use it right and you grow your economy well, then using debt will make you a lot stronger. But you do need to be aware that because of the way that you're going to be paying out interest to the pops who have ownership shares in businesses that use cash reserves, and that's a lot of modifiers on there. But as long as they are doing that, you do need to be aware that they are going to be getting interest payments, assuming that the coal mine actually has max Cash reserves. No, none. All right. Yep. There we go. Okay, well that's a quick debt video. Let me know if you still have any questions about it. I think the largest thing to keep in mind is just the social implications of the government giving money to capitalists or aristocrats in the event that you have access to an investment pool that lets you use the money from those pops. That can be useful, but it is a cash transfer. And cash transfers directly to powerful pops can be dangerous because they can result in them having outsized clout. All right, that's Walker. Take care.